Right, Harshita and Dheeraj, are you all able to hear me? Harshita and Dheeraj? Yeah, am I audible? Yeah, I can see. Yeah, guys, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. What we'll do is we'll start off with the class. There are around 5 participants, 5 students as of now. Let others also join. Sorry for the delay. There's some technical glitch. So, yeah. In a minute or two, what I'll do is I'll share my screen. And then you should be able to see what I'm trying to code. Okay? All right. Five. Majors. Okay. It may not happen that way. We need to look into it and see. First, the company profile of the choosing right? Or else they'll not understand. అది నాకు అవసరమైతే నేను వాట్సాప్ మెసేజ్ పెట్టాను. If I need some clarification from you, I will text you. Yeah. All right. So guys, this is how we'll take up this class. What we'll do is I'll share my screen. I'll mute you all so that there will be much of a disturbance. Right? I'll share my screen where so you should now be able to see you should now be able to see my NetBeans screen. Are you all able to see that? Now, if you have any issues, you should be able to see the NetBeans screen. Once I start coding, you should be able to see that. Now, if you have any issues, what you can do is you can send me a chat message. There is an option to send me a chat message. So look for that option and try sending me a chat message, okay? So here it is. This is a chat option. So you can send me a chat message if you have any issues in terms of following the content. Right? Now, can you quickly send me a message here in this chat option that you're able to hear me, you're able to see my NetBeans screen? Can I get your messages, chat messages? Can you guys do that for me? Perfect. I have received it from Lokesh. I've also received it from Rohit, Sonika, Sharath. Yeah. Harshita, Harsha, Sri Bhavya. Fantastic. Right. So, all right. So what we'll do is we'll now go ahead and start with the coding part. I'm here in the NetBeans. I'll go into files, start a new project. So it is a Java application project. I'll give a name to it. I'll say abstract class demo project 2 because morning I called it as project 1. So the afternoon slot, I'll call it as project 2, right? So that's the project where they have the NetBeans has already created a class for me and it has already put a main method. But then this class I won't be using straight away. What I'll do is I'll create one more package, new package. I'll call this as classes, where I'll put all my classes there, right? And in that package classes, I'm trying to create a new Java class called as shape. this is the example we were trying to follow from last lecture. So we'll continue with the same thing. So I've got a class called shape. Now, I'm not too sure if I need the class to be made public. So for security reasons, what I'll do is I will convert that into a default class, right? So it is a default class at this stage. If I need this class to be made public, I'll do that, or else I'll keep it as default. Now, this is always a practice that you need to follow. Your security access specifiers have to be as minimal as possible to start with, and then you can improvise. You can fine tune them, okay? So from yesterday's thing, what members do we need? We need a protected member, protected double side one, right? And then we only thought of one member. So, and then the constructors, I'll start off with a protected constructor. Now for the constructor, I'll keep it as default to start with, and then I'll see like what is the best I can do with the constructors. So it is a default constructor, shape double side one. And as yesterday's class, we will use the constructor to validate the inputs. So here I'll say this dot side one is equal to, I'll use the ternary operators. If side one is greater than 0, question mark, then I need to assign side one to my this dot side one, or else colon, I need to assign a 0. Hope you're all able to follow this ternary operators. So to side one, which is the member variable, I'm checking a condition. What is the condition? The parameter that I have passed is greater than 0. If it is 0, to this side one, I will assign the parameter side one. If it is not greater than 0, then I'll assign a value 0. Right? That's my constructor. What is the access specifier for the constructor? It is a default access specifier at this stage. Right? Now, I'll go ahead and write some methods. Now, in the last class, we said there is no reason why my shape class has to be a concrete class. So I will convert the shape class to be an abstract class, right? So abstract class shape. So now, is it mandatory that I need to have abstract methods in an abstract class? No, it is not mandatory. An abstract class doesn't have to have abstract methods, but the other way around is mandatory. If a class has abstract methods, that class must be an abstract class. So I'll go ahead and write some abstract methods. Protected, abstract, double, calculate area of. Now, when I say abstract, see, it instantly gives me an error. What is the error? Abstract methods cannot have a body. So I cannot have these parentheses, right? I cannot have a body for these methods. So all that I need to do is put a semicolon. Similarly, I will also have one more method, and I'll call that method as calculate query. Now, should an abstract class have all methods to be abstract? Not necessary. So I can have some concrete classes also. So these are all the abstract methods I'll have. I'll also have some concrete methods. I'll have a concrete method protected. I'm purposefully keeping them to be protected. I will improvise, fine-tune this access specifier depending on what the need is, what kind of access I want to give later. So protected. I started off with protected because I'm sure that this class, being an abstract class, will be a parent class for some other classes. So protected string print name of shape, right? And this being a concrete class, I need to have a body for this class. I cannot simply put a semicolon. So what I'll do, I'll return a string called this is a shape. So that's my shape class. Now what I'll do is shape class, which is an abstract class, which has got one member, which is side one. It has got a constructor with one parameter, and it has got two abstract methods and one concrete method. So it looks good. So now in these classes, I'll create one more class, Java class. I'll call that as a rectangle class, right? Perfect. Now in the rectangle class, I want this rectangle class to be a child class for the shape class. So extends shape. Now, the moment I say instantly extends shape, there are few errors pointing out. The compiler points out an error. It says rectangle is not abstract. Why does it say rectangle is not abstract? Because it has not overridden the calculate peri or calculate area method. So being a child class for shape and shape containing abstract methods, the child class rectangle must implement body of those two abstract methods. So what I'll do is I'll first clear that error. So I'll call them as public double calculate area of and then a body. I will say return 0. I'll fine tune the code little later depending on the parameters, right? I'll also do the same thing for the calculate perimeter as well. Calculate peri and then 0. But I can still see an error. What does this say? It says constructor shape in class shape cannot be applied to given types, require a double. Now this is what I was talking about in my previous class. There is a problem with the constructors. So what problem is there? If I don't write a constructor here in the rectangle class, that means the compiler will invoke a default constructor. What is a default constructor? A constructor which doesn't have any code. It is the only purpose of that constructor is to create an object. And that is something which a user doesn't write. The compiler automatically does that, right? So that means there is a constructor which looks like this that is already embedded by the compiler into the code which is being called. But then there is a problem with this constructor. What is the problem? Every child class constructor, what is that default statement that is existing here? There is a super of. So this is something which is by default run by the compiler, even without you writing it. Now the whole problem is with this super of. What is the problem here? If I look at my shape class, there is no such constructor at all. I have a constructor, but that constructor is taking one parameter. I don't have a 0 parameter constructor. Do I have one? No, I don't. So I need to go back to my rectangle class, change this. How do I change it? How do I change it? I will take double S1, double S2, and I'll pass S1 to super of. Now, is this a valid constructor in the super class? Yes, it is, right? Now, along with this, I will also now do one for side 2. Now, I didn't declare side 2, so I need to go above and declare my other member. So I want to keep my member private because I don't want any other class to extend rectangle class as of now. So I'll keep the member private. Private double side 2. Perfect. So this dot side 2 is equal. This dot side 2 is equal to. I'll use the ternary operator again. If S2 is greater than 0, question mark, then assign S2 itself, or else assign a 0. Does that make sense? So that's the constructor I have. Now I'll not leave it with one single constructor. I will have one more constructor return here. Rectangle double S. This is to accommodate the square shapes. Again, it is giving me an error. What is the error? It says I cannot simply write this because by default, the first statement inside this would be super of, unless and until I overwrite it with another super of statement. So this is not a valid constructor. So what I'm trying to do here is I'll pass S to this. And now I want this constructor to be used for square shapes. So if it has to be for the square shapes, then I have to pass S for side 2 also. So instead of simply writing super of S, why don't I simply say this of S comma S? As simple as that. Now what do you mean by this of S comma S? Look at how I'm using this operator. Here I'm using this operator in order to access the member of this class. Whereas here I'm using this operator to invoke a constructor. Constructor of which class? The same class. So this of here means I'm invoking the constructor. Which constructor? The constructor which has got two parameters. Which one is that? This one. So this of s comma s statement invokes this constructor, passes on s value for s1, another s value for s2. So that means it is passing the same value for both s1 and s2, which is as good as being the square shape, right? So does that make sense? So here in this particular code, we have shown how to use a super to call a constructor. We have shown how to use this both for calling members as well as to invoke a constructor. Right? Now it is time we go ahead and fine tune our calculate area method. What I can do here is I can simply say return. Remember we said there is something called as a math class. Which package has got the math class? The java.lang package. How do I verify that? This is how you need to verify. Go to Google, easy way. Simply say Java API, right? You can either search for the 8 API or 9 API. Java API 8 or 9. Go there. It takes you to the Google Docs, right? Now here you need to search for various packages that you have. Now java.lang is the package which has the math class, right? So let's look at what classes are there in java.lang. There is a whole big set of classes. So that's the math class. Inside the math class, a class will have some members and some methods, right? There is a member called pi. It is a static member. Just remember that. We haven't covered static as of now in the classes. So I'll talk about static later in my classes. But as of now, remember that pi is a member. And also I've got some methods. So I want you to explore all these methods, right? These methods, this documentation tells you how to use these methods. How many parameters will they take? What is the data type of the parameter? What is the return type of each of these methods is what this particular document tells you. Now, in all of this, there is a method called as power, P-O-W, which takes two parameters, right? We'll be using this also. So let's get back to the code. So return math.py times power of this dot. Oh, sorry. Why do I need math.py? Sorry. I was talking about the circle class. So it is as simple as this dot side1 times this dot side2. I was excited to talk about math.py and math.pow functions, but here I don't need it. It's a very straightforward statement. Return this dot side1 times return this dot side2. We'll talk about math.py and the power function when we talk about the circle class, right? So as of now, it is a simple return 2 times this dot side1 plus this dot side2. All right. So that's for the perimeter. Now, do I need to write the body of the print name of shape method? No, I don't have to. Why don't I have to? Because if I look at the shape class, that method is a concrete method. So do I need to override it? Is there a rule that every concrete method must be overridden? No, there is no such rule. Abstract methods, yes, you have to override because the superclass doesn't have a body. Whereas the concrete methods, you do not have to. If you wish to, you can. If you do not wish to, you do not have to. Right? So we'll see. We'll see both the changes. So this is where my rectangle class is. So is everything done with the rectangle class as of now? Looks perfect for me. Right? So can I now go ahead and write one more class? New Java class circle. Right? So that's a circle class. I don't have to call it to be public class, but we'll see if I have to fine tune it a little later. So as of now, to be on a safer side in terms of security, I'll call this to be a default class. Class circle extends shape. The moment I say that, the compiler warns me. What does it warn? You have abstract methods here in the shape class. You need to implement those abstract methods. You also have the constructor. So there are two errors which have to be addressed instantly. So let's start with the constructor first. For the circle class, I don't need any additional members, right? So I'll start off with the constructor. I'll keep the constructor to be default to start with. Circle of double S. What should be there inside this? I'll simply say super of S, right? So that's a very simple constructor. Then I'll go with the methods. Now what is the first method? Public double calculate area of, right, return. This is where I was talking about math.py. I was so excited I started writing it in my rectangle class itself. There's no two. Math.py times, how much is that? Power math dot power of this dot side 1 comma 2. That means you're raising side 1 to a power of 2. Is that clear? Yeah. So that's with calculate area. Then public double calculate area of return. What is the perimeter? 2 times math.py times. Do I need a power function? No, I don't need a power function. It's just 2 pi r. So this dot side 1. So that's with the calculate perimeter. And then, now do I need to override the print name of shape function? No, I don't have to override print name of shape function. That's because it's not an abstract method, it's a concrete method. So I'm done with the circle class also, right? So it's time we get back to our class which has got the main method. So where is that? It is in a different package. It is in a package called abstract class demo project 2. So I'll go to that particular class. It's a public class because it has got the main method. Public class abstract class demo project 2. I've got the main method here. So let's go ahead and now I'll say shape S. I'll instantly get an error because this class has no idea what shape class is. Because shape class is present in which package? There is a package called classes. So unless and until I import it, I cannot access the shape class here, right? So should I write an import statement? Let's go ahead and do that. Import classes dot, I need all of these, right? I need shape, I need rectangle, I need circle, I'll use all of them. So classes dot star, right? But it still shows an error. Why is it still showing an error? Look at what the error is. It says shape is not public in classes. So that means even if I have imported it in this package classes, my shape class, what is the access specifier for the shape class? I kept it as a default. So default classes cannot be accessed outside the package, even if you import. So there's no way you can import. That statement doesn't make sense. So what you need to do is, you need to say that this is abstract public class shape. Then that error goes away. Let's look into this. Let me save. Yeah, that error went off because now it is able to access reference. It is able to access a class called shape. So what is S here? It is a reference of type shape. Now, once you have a reference of type shape, then what you can do is, let us first see if I can create an object of the shape class. Is this a valid statement? It is not valid statement for two reasons. One, I cannot create an object of the shape class because shape is an abstract class. Two, this kind of a constructor is not existing at all, right? So I cannot write this statement. So even if I pass 10 to it, because the constructor exists, that is still a wrong statement. Why is still that a wrong statement? That's because shape is an abstract class. I cannot create an object of the shape class. So that's why it's a wrong statement. It cannot be written. So I'll create an object of rectangle class. I'll pass 10 to it. Is that a valid statement? It is a valid statement. But why does it still show an error? It says rectangle of double is not public in rectangle. So that means there is some access specifier problem in the rectangle class. So let's go into the rectangle class. Okay. I kept the class to be a public class, so there's no problem accessing the class. So that I understand. But what else does it say? It says rectangle of double. That means the constructor. It says the constructor is not public. Very true. See, the constructor that is present in this class has to be a public constructor because it has to be accessed outside this package. What kind of a constructor did I write here? I wrote default constructors. Default methods or default members, where can they be accessed? They can be accessed by other classes belonging to the same package, right? Guys, don't put scratches on my screen, right? Just follow the code. I'm good that you're experimenting, but yeah, let us not disturb others. So rectangle here, both the constructors, they are default constructors. So default constructors, they cannot be accessed outside this package. So if I have to get them accessed by this package, what do I need to do then? I need to keep them public, right? So public and public. Perfect. Right. So let's get back to this. Now, is this problem resolved? Let me save. Yes, it is resolved. So I have got an object called rectangle of 10. So that means I'm actually trying to create a square, right? With side 10. Perfect. Then I'll do the system.out.println. This is a square, right? And then I'll say system.out.println s.calculate. What methods do I have accessible? I have s dot, s being a superclass reference, I have s dot calculate area of. But then I could sense some problem there. What is the problem here? It is somehow not able to access calculate area method. Why is it not able to access calculate area method? It says calculate area is a protected access in shape. But then when I remember in the rectangle class, I made the calculate area to be public. But why is it still stopping me? It is stopping because I'm accessing the method through a reference which is of the superclass, right? So it is trying to look at the superclass calculate area access specifier. Though it is running the body which is there in the rectangle class, it is working with the access specifier that is present in the superclass. So get back to the shape class, convert this method, which was a protected one, to a public. You understand why protected doesn't work there? That's because you're trying to access this method outside this package. So same is the case with this protected. So you can convert this to public as well. Same is the case with this one, because you want to access this outside, convert this to public. So save this. You shouldn't be having a problem now. Yeah, perfect. So can I use, right. So I'll call the method calculate query. And I will also call the method s dot print name of shape. Perfect. Right? So that's with the square. Now, can I repeat this for rectangle and circle? Let's do that. If this has to be a rectangle, I need to use the other constructor. So I'll here say this is the rectangle. Printing the name of the shape. New circle of 10. Is there some problem accessing the class called circle? Let us see. What does it say? Circle is not public in classes. Okay, we didn't change the circle class to be a public class. Yes, I simply said class. So it is a default class as of now, unless and until I keep a public there. Right. Let me save. Yeah, there shouldn't be a problem. It says the constructor is not public. Makes sense. So go back. Yes, constructor is not public. So it is still a default. So convert that to public. Save it. Perfect. Right. So let's get back to this class. All right. So this is a circle. Calculate area and calculate shape. Now, one second, man. There is some online class. Kucho. Right. So what I'll do is I'll now execute this code, run this for you. Let us see what the output is. Right, it says this is a square, the area is 100 because the side is 10, the perimeter is 40. Perfect. And it says this is a shape. Where did this statement come from? This came from the superclass method print name of shape. Right? That's because this method has not been overwritten. Where is the shape class here? This method has not been overwritten in the rectangle. It was not overwritten in the circle also. So if you look at the output, everywhere it says this is a shape, this is a shape, this is a shape, right? You can see that here. So for rectangle, for square, for circle, it says this is a shape. That's because it's not overridden. So should we go ahead and override these in other classes as well? I'll go ahead and do that in the rectangle class. So that's a rectangle class. I'll call this as this is a rectangle. Now if I run for square and rectangle, it has to say this is a rectangle instead of this is a shape. Whereas for circle, it should still say this is a shape. So let's run this. Yes. So this is a rectangle. This is a rectangle. But for circle, it shows that this is a shape. That's because this was not overridden in the circle class. So if you want this to be overridden in the circle class also, then you can go ahead and overwrite it in the circle class. So this is a circle. But then it is not mandatory. That's because this is not an abstract method. This is a concrete method. So there is no reason why you have to override it. Right? You don't have to define the body of this method in all the classes, all the child classes. So that's it. So let's run this code again. Yeah. So this is a square, 140. This is a rectangle. This is a rectangle. 260. It's a rectangle. This is a square. That's the area. That's the perimeter. This is a circle. So now let's look at some key takeaways from all these classes. Let's start with the shape class. So we called the shape class to be abstract, and we had to make this public, though we started off this as a default class. Why do we need to make this public? That's because this class has to be accessed outside this package. Now, if this class has one member, it is sufficient to keep this protected. That's because I'm not accessing this member outside this class. This member is only being accessed by rectangle and circle, right? Side one is being accessed only by rectangle and circle. It is these methods which are being accessed outside this particular package. Calculate area, calculate perimeter are the methods which are being accessed outside this package. That's the reason why these are made public, whereas the member could be left out as protected. And then I've got one constructor with one parameter. I've used ternary operators, so make sure you understand how to use ternary operators in codes. So let's look at the rectangle class. So rectangle class, I made it extend the shape class. So instantly it gives an error saying that the abstract methods have to be implemented. So that's the reason why calculate area, calculate peri must be defined. Whereas print name of shape, you have an option whether you can override or not override. Right? And here also, the key takeaways are, look at how the super-of constructor is used. Look at how this is used as both to access the members as well as for constructors. So you need to get hold of how to use these super-of and this of. Same is the case with the circle class. In the circle class, one more thing that we also looked at is how to use math.py and math.power methods. And then execution-wise, I used a superclass reference S, one single reference to refer to objects of the child classes. Rectangle, this is an object of child class. This is also an object of child class. So we are trying to reiterate the point that superclass reference can be used to refer to the objects of the child class. All right, so that's the whole demonstration I wish to give you in today's lecture. Make sure you're executing this code all by yourself. You're writing this code. You'll have a lot of issues in terms of access specifiers. You need to look at what the errors are. You need to figure out why such an error has occurred, and then you need to go back and correct. Unless and until you practice all this, you will not be able to do that completely by yourself, right? So any questions at this stage? What I'll do is I'll quickly unmute all of you so that you can I've unmuted all of you. If you have any questions, you may ask one by one. We have about 3 more minutes to go. So any questions? Any questions, anyone? No questions as usual. That's quite a good number of participants. We've got around 24 participants in this session and around 32 participants in the last previous session. So that gives a total count of 56, which is a very appreciated number. Harsha, Rohita, Vanaja, any questions? Veta, Pitula, Ramya, Rohita, Sunny, Vinyasa, Bhavna, Deepti, Lokesh, Priyanka. Lokesh, good that you have attended this second session also. Ranjit, Sonika, Bhavya, any questions? Feel free to ask. All right, what I'll do as a continuation to this is I will upload the code, what I have written and compiled here. I will upload the code on Yammer. I will also upload this video on Yammer so that you can go through all this. Right. Now, this is the end of both online lectures today. On Yammer, I'll try to upload some practice problems. So make sure you constantly follow problems. Thank you, everyone.